Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with perhaps one of the rarer and more obscure pieces of American World War I gas mask development, because what you are looking at here is the Navy Mouthpiece canister hemispherical type, or simply put, the Navy Submarine canister. There isn't too much history on these. The basic knowledge to know about these is that they were developed specifically for US Navy submarine crews for protection against specifically chlorine, and the reason for this is because in early military submarines, which were often battery-powered, the batteries had a tendency to become toxile, and the chemicals used within were volatile and had a tendency to basically deteriorate and in a chemical process that would let off chlorine gas, which would eventually flood the entire cabin and kill the entire crew. And so the Navy was quick to look out for a means of developing a small compact mask or canister of some sort, which would protect submarine crews from these asphyxiating chlorine gases so that they may escape the submarine surface and basically let all of the chlorine vent out before they were rescued in some way or another. And this is one of the earlier developments for protecting submarine crews. Another was a modification of the Navy gas mask Mark I mouth canister type, which, if you don't know what that is, basically imagine a German GM15, but it has a mouthpiece and nose clip assembly similar to a British small box respirator, and then the canister has an integrated flutter valve in the threads. So if you want to know more about that mask, just Google Navy gas mask Mark I mouth canister type or something like that. I'm sure I'll probably link Bart Wilkes's page Le Masque à Gaz in the description, because he has a pretty good example. He has two different examples of the Navy Mark I mouthpiece or mouth canister mask. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Back onto the mouthpiece canister. So this was the primary issued piece of kit for Navy submarine crews in the First World War. And I should also go out on a limb to say that this is not my example. This is actually on loan to me from Moulage from our recent visit, because he wanted me to basically look after it and make sure it's all cleaned up and restored. And he does actually have the carrying can that these would come in, but unfortunately he did not remember to bring it, so I can't show it in this review, and I'm sure he'll do a better video in the future showing that off. But nevertheless, I have it here. This is the more important part. It would just come in a cylindrical metal tin similar to most Navy masks at the time, and there's really nothing special to see about it. As far as I recall, it did not have any markings on it. It was just a cylindrical metal tin that was painted the same olive drab color as the canister. So right off the bat, you can see that the main component of this mask is this small half spherical, or hemispherical as the name would imply, canister, which would be filled with some sort of filtering absorbent such as charcoal, probably is what it was. I know that there's documentation on the hemispherical mouthpiece canister, which I'll probably also link in the description, just so you could read up on this if you want to know more about what these actually contained and how they worked. And basically what it is just a canister with a giant rubber mouthpiece and chin rest just kind of wired onto it. But it's very interesting because it isn't actually wired. This is a particular type of clamp known as the cork and seal, and I doubt you're going to be able to see that, but it's actually very faintly and very small lettering just embossed onto the metal there, cork and seal, and that's the manufacturer's name of this particular type of fastener. It was used on a whole bunch of different types of bottles and things like that, but the Navy decided it would be applicable for this design for changing out the canisters and salvaging these mouthpiece and chin rest assemblies. So again, the mouthpiece isn't anything new. It's just a CEM style rubber mouthpiece. However, it is extended into a large rubber cup, which features a rubber chin rest as well. And the principle behind this is that you would hold this in your teeth, and these little set of wings, the chin rest, would butt up against the front of your chin and keep the canister balanced so it would not be as stressful to carry in your mouth. Really nothing to see on the bottom there, just some wire mesh holding in the absorbents. It's a bit rusty, and I've done a little bit to try and remove the rust. As you can see, there's a little bit of bare metal, but ultimately I can't get all of that off, and I'm not going to attempt it because basically all the oil that I'm going to put on this is going to soak into the filter ingredients, and not that it matters, but just I don't want to do that. And then obviously the only other component to this kit is the nose clips, which are actually off of a standard CE or RFK type box respirator. However, unfortunately this set has a broken pad, which Moulage did want me to glue back on, but I'm not quite confident that I can without it just breaking off again, so I'm not going to attempt it. It's better just to leave it as is for now. And the only other thing to show off is the actual removal of the mouthpiece assembly, because he actually did manage to get this off, and it's quite fascinating how this core conceal mechanism works. So as you can see, the two coils of wire here are spaced further apart, and as you lever this up, it rotates and releases the tension off this wire clamp, and that's loose now, so I can just lever that off with my thumb, and the entire mouthpiece assembly just comes off. Interestingly, there are no markings on this mouthpiece, leading me to believe that this may not be a production part. It very well could be, but usually production rubber parts from the First World War era will have some sort of stamping on them, like usually a 2-digit lot number or part reference number. I'm not sure what it is, and then usually a stamp that's like a series of lines. I'm not sure how to describe it. It looks like a barcode, but it's not. But that doesn't have any this does not have any markings whatsoever, so I'm not entirely sure whether this is production or not. Really nothing to see here. It is a bit warped, as you could probably tell, but given that this is a 100-year-old piece of rubber and how flexible it is still, it's quite remarkable. Looking inside where the mouthpiece and chin rest assembly would have been, you can see that the entire body of the canister is brass, owing to how it's held up in such great shape over the years, which is really a nice feature, because if this were made out of steel, this probably would not have lasted as well. But it's made out of brass, and therefore it is able to be in one piece and show it to you guys today, and I'm very thankful for that. But really, there's not too much to mention about these. I'm not sure if these ever got officially adopted. I'm not sure how much of these got procured. This could very well be an experimental design that was only tested and, trialed with, but never officially adopted, because the Navy kind of went haywire with adopting submarine canister masks for a while, and there's a couple different variants of these. I know that the variant of this particular submarine canister that appears in the National Archives does not have this cylindrical ridge around the bottom. It was just completely half circular with no embossed details. So there is and there's even an entirely spherical variant that appears in that one famous photo of the lineup of U.S. masks from the First World War, or various gas masks of the First World War. But there's at least 3 different variants of this canister assembly, so I'm not sure how to really categorize this as an actual adopted mask or just something experimental that was tested with. But nevertheless, these were probably around until about the 1920s or so, when the Mark I submarine mask, which is a modification of the M1 service mask facepiece with a directly mounted canister, was adopted around, again, probably around the early 1920s, and didn't really last very long in service as the advancements in submarine technology improved and the batteries did not basically self-degrade and kill all their crews. So that being said, that's really all there is to say about these. Not too much history to them, but a very rare and very interesting piece of equipment that the U.S. Navy would have been issued during late World War I. So that being said, I'm Duke Nougat 3D. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns, drop them down in the comments below, and I'll see you all later.